It started with a phone call, one that should never have been made. A black homeowner, proud and private, walked up to the house he had built a life in. But across the street, a curtain shifted. Eyes narrowed. Moments later, blue lights cut through the quiet evening. He wasn't trespassing. He wasn't lost. Yet in minutes, his name would be in every whisper, his dignity tested before an audience of strangers. What was the real reason for the call? And why did the Homeowners Association try to bury what came next? Tonight, the truth steps into the light. Marcus Reed loved his home. The maple trees out front, the soft hum of sprinklers in summer, the crackle of leaves underfoot in autumn. Every detail was hard-earned. He had worked for years to afford this quiet suburb, a place advertised as welcoming, neighborly, and safe. For months, he kept to himself, waved politely at dog walkers, trimmed his hedges to HOA specifications, paid his dues on time. His driveway was the kind where kids left chalk drawings, his porch light the kind that stayed on for late-night walkers. But in certain corners of the neighborhood, Marcus noticed eyes that lingered too long. He'd feel them when unloading groceries, or while jogging in the early morning fog. Subtle, but impossible to ignore, the weight of scrutiny that others didn't seem to carry. The HOA newsletter was full of friendly tips and photos from community events, but between those smiling snapshots, quiet complaints circulated, not to him directly, never face to face. That October evening, the air smelled faintly of rain. Marcus pulled into his driveway, unaware that across the street, a neighbor's fingers were already dialing 911. The reason? They'd never seen it before. In the house he owned. The patrol car rolled in silently, its headlights sweeping across his porch. Marcus was kneeling to gather a fallen bag of groceries when he noticed a glow of red and blue behind him. A knot formed in his stomach. That familiar, unwelcome surge of adrenaline. 2 officers stepped out. Their questions weren't shouted, but they carried an undercurrent he recognized, an assumption preloaded. The words suspected trespasser floated in the still night air like smoke. Across the street, the caller stood in her driveway, arms folded, face hard. She didn't wave, didn't speak, just watched as Marcus produced his ID, his mortgage statement, even pointed to the monogrammed welcome mat at his feet. But suspicion doesn't dissolve easily when it's built on something deeper than facts. Soon the HOA president arrived, not to de-escalate, but to assist. Clipboard in hand, he muttered about concerns and community safety, skimming past Marcus's paperwork as though the truth might be hiding somewhere else. The next day, whispers traveled faster than the autumn wind. Neighbors said Marcus had been acting suspicious, that the HOA was looking into it. Social media posts framed it as a possible break-in thwarted just in time. Marcus knew the power of such narratives, how they could erode a person's place in a community without ever confronting them directly. So he began gathering evidence. HOA bylaws, footage from his doorbell camera, screenshots of emails he'd received welcoming him after closing on the house. The deeper he dug, the more he uncovered. A pattern of targeted complaints, all directed at homeowners of color over the past 5 years. Each case dismissed quietly, each person eventually selling and moving away. What happened to him wasn't a mistake. It was a cycle. A week later, Marcus attended the HOA meeting, public, recorded, and live-streamed. When his agenda item was called, he stood calmly, a folder in hand. He began with a video, clear, time-stamped footage of him unlocking his own door on the night in question. The patrol car pulling in. The neighbor across the street making the call, visible in her lit-up window. Gasps rippled through the room. Then he laid out the paper trail, complaint records, all signed by the same small group of board members, targeting a pattern no one could deny. He read off the names of families who had left, pausing after each to let the silence weigh on the room. Finally, he turned toward the neighbor who had called the police. She shifted uncomfortably, her gaze fixed on the floor. "This is not about a misunderstanding," Marcus said, voice steady. "This is about who gets to feel at home here, and who is treated as an intruder. And tonight, I'm not leaving until this community chooses which it's going to be. Every camera phone in the room caught the moment. The HOA president, visibly flustered, announcing the removal of the complaint from Marcus's record and a review of board practices. But the damage and the truth was already public. The video spread beyond the neighborhood within days. Local reporters reached out. Advocacy groups cited it in discussions about racial profiling in housing communities. Marcus stayed, not because it was easy, but because leaving would make the silence louder. He painted his front door a bright, defiant color, the kind that could be spotted from the entrance of the subdivision. The HOA rewrote certain policies under public pressure, but Marcus' new rules on paper were only part of the battle. The real change would be in the moments when a neighbor saw someone who didn't look familiar and chose to wave instead of whisper. For him, the incident wasn't just a confrontation. It was a mirror held up to the entire neighborhood, a reminder of how quickly the idea of community can fracture along lines of fear and bias. This story isn't just about Marcus. It's about the quiet ways injustice hides in plain sight, under the banner of safety, order, or tradition. The question is, how many more doorsteps will see blue lights before we finally decide that home should mean belonging for everyone?